I'm joined today by rapper and hip hop sensation Flawless Real Talk. Welcome to Everybody Pulls the Tarp, Flawless.
What's up, Andrew, man? Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
It's a pleasure to have you. I want to dig into so much that's been going on in your career. You've had just, an enormous amount of success, but you've also pulled the tarp, as I like to say on this show. You've grinded it out. You've built a massive fan base, but slowly and steadily. I want to get into all of it with you. You've written now over 70 of your own songs throughout your career. When did you start writing songs?
I started writing at an early age, about 16. We have 70 songs, in the streaming platforms, but I mean, I've written so many songs throughout my career, but at 16, it started off with like more poetry, getting my emotions out. And then we started transitioning that onto like instrumentals. And it just kind of, it formed itself into me actually writing hip hop. So it was pretty dope the way it transformed.
And what's your process? So how do ideas come to you? How do you get them on a paper?
I think it really varies on, just like any creator, the type of mood that you're in, depending on what's going on in your life. I'm very authentic in my music. So a lot of my music is related to, the stuff that I'm going on in my life. So I think it's just really based on the type of mood that you're in. If I'm in a happy mood, I might make a song that's more upbeat. If I'm feeling down that day, it might be a more personal, motivational song. You know what I mean? So it all depends on the moment for sure.
Does it typically come fast or slow?
It depends. I mean, some songs are created in 30 minutes. Some songs take 5 days. I'm actually on a song right now that's taking me a few days. And it depends on the process and how fast things come to you. But it's also about putting in that work ethic too and sticking with it.
I've talked to a lot of authors and creators, different types of folks. Everybody has a different strategy for how to overcome that creative block. What's your approach when you get stuck? What do you do?
When I get stuck, the best thing for me to do is just throw on some instrumentals and like freestyle. And what it does is it makes you like kind of have to think at a fast pace, and it opens your brain up. It just gets the brain kind of going, kind of get the motor warmed up. And every time that I feel stuck, I'll just start freestyling and coming up with different rhyme schemes and patterns throughout my freestyles and make notes of those. Like sometimes I'll audio record it just to keep a reference. And then I'll go back and I'll say, oh, I love this rhyme scheme and this pattern. I'll add some real words to it, you know what I mean? And make it work. So it's all strategic.
Do you have folks that you lean on for feedback and input?
Yeah, obviously my personal team, I have like a band that I perform with, that I do shows with. They're all very musically inclined. So I would send some records out. Obviously some peers that I have, my rhythm and flow peers from the show and other rappers within my community. Definitely sometimes, let some songs out and see what they think about them and see what the hype is behind it before you release it. It's always good to have like a couple of opinions that you trust close to you for sure.
So you mentioned Rhythm and Flow. Let's get into that. So Netflix's big show, Rhythm and Flow. You're one of the contestants. You finished runner-up. I mean, a mega performance in the finale. I thought you should have won, Flawless.
Thank you.
When I look and watch it back. Talk about that experience. What was going on there maybe that people didn't see in terms of the process and how you get through that process?
I think what a lot of people didn't see and didn't get to grasp watching the show was the time frames, between challenges, having one day to prepare in the middle of filming, in the middle of everything. I think it was a lot of pressure on the contestants to deliver because, if nobody was able to deliver, then what kind of show would it have really been? So the fact that the time frames were so short, I was very, very fortunate to be a part of a group that was very strong-minded, a lot of strong-minded and polished individuals that were ready for the moment. Because had they had contestants that weren't ready for the moment and couldn't prepare at such a fast pace, then it wouldn't have been as successful as it was. So definitely the time frame for sure.
So the time frame was very compressed. Lots of preparation that has to take place in a short period of time. Whether you're creating hip hop music, you're the CEO of a company, you're a new intern, you're playing baseball, whatever it is. We're all faced with often preparation, a lot of preparation in a short time frame. How did you navigate that?
Just using my experience. I mean, at that point, you have to just rely on everything that you've gone through that to that point. there's no adjusting at that point or trying to figure it out or learn new things. It's like there's not enough time. So you got to hope that you're very aware of the situation and have been faced with adversity, because it definitely was a challenge for me. And I was already as polished as I was. So a lot of artists that didn't get through were very talented, but maybe couldn't just seize the moment, so to speak.
How do you draw upon those moments of adversity when you're going through something like that? Do you kind of have them? You have them cataloged in your mind, and you're pulling them and say, okay, when I navigated that, I did this. When I faced this, I did that. Is that how it works, or?
Yeah, I think it's just about understanding that you've been here before. I've had short time frames before. I've had pressure on me before. We've come too far to quit now. So it has to work. It's just that mentality of knowing how far you've been, and this opportunity is so massive that you can't let this one thing get in the way after everything you've been through. So I just kind of just collectively put everything in my mind, my entire journey and everything that I've been through, and try to utilize those feelings and those thoughts at those times where I didn't have these opportunities, and really just try to execute to the best of my ability.
You have spent your whole career, Flawless, fighting for opportunities, grinding it out, as I like to say, building that fan base. When you were getting started, and you're performing in front of maybe much smaller groups than you're performing in front of now, how did you stay focused on continuing to move forward?
Ideally, just at first it was within my city, performing within my city, doing 200 to 300 people. And I didn't really see the big picture at that moment. It was kind of just, let's see what we can do with this. At that point in the local stage, you don't really know how far you can really take it. You're just trying to just see what happens, see what you can make happen. And for me, I was grateful for that later on in my career, because I had taken, the leap to go from my city. I packed everything up I was about 18 years old, packed everything up, moved to Atlanta, Georgia, with really no plan in sight. But I knew Atlanta was more of a musical. At the time, it was very powerful musically, and I could possibly gain more opportunities. Well, only 2 months removed from home, I was in Atlanta doing Phillips Arena, 20,000 people, opening for major artists. And I thought back to all those times where I was doing week in and week out, those small shows. And that was actually the practice that I needed for those big moments. So I think that for me, those smaller shows really, really shaped me to become the artist I am today. So it's very important for upcoming artists to take every show, it's all practice no matter what, for the bigger moment. So, just like we said, with the adversity of having to perform in front of a crowd, in front of cameras, I can think back to that moment where I was so inexperienced in front of 20,000 people and I had to get through that. I'm like, if I can get through that, I can get through this, So it's just like utilizing those experiences throughout the journey.
So what happened in Atlanta that you went from playing shows for 200-300 people in your hometown to getting to Atlanta and quickly opening at the Phillips Arena for major artists?
It was just about a matter of, kind of persistence. When I got down there, it was like, okay, the only thing I can do is try to make myself visible as much as I can. So I entered every competition, every contest. Ended up winning like a huge 64 artist tournament competition that got me like on the radar for competition. So we ended up winning another competition that was a Wendy's competition, and that prize was to open up for Ludacris, T.I., and those big artists in Phillips Arena. And I think just us going into everything and entering every competition and contest and really making a name for ourselves really helped us really get through it in Atlanta.
And something that I know is important to you is the connection with your fan base. Obviously you've built this massive social media following. You engage in very unique ways, whether it be a text message, email messages, with your audience, with your community, I'd like to say. How has that always been something that's been part of, your approach to growing in this industry?
Absolutely. Being independent and coming up, learning about independent touring and, seeing different markets where I was more popular than I was in other markets, it allowed me to see that everything has a purpose. And if I can continue to grow a brand and continue to grow independently, I can create a connection with fans that nobody can break. No radio station can break, no label can break, no industry person can break. Direct access to the consumer, to the fans, having that relationship with them is more powerful than worrying about popularity through the masses, if I can make instant connections, because a lot of people don't realize, right? So an independent artist like myself, if I come out with an album and the album is $10 and I get 40,000 of my fans to buy that album, we're talking about almost $500,000 there in revenue that I can invest into myself. I don't need 1 million fans independently. A lot of people think they need millions of fans, but if you can get a core fan base that's going to support you, you can grow within that core fan base and continue to grow more fans. And that for me was more important than being famous. It was like I can continue to grow these connections and grow a core fan base that's going to ride with me for years, that's going to ride with me through thick and thin, that's going to support everything that I do. And it's become more valuable than the overall picture of being famous, quote unquote.
As you're building that fan base, like, is there a moment that you think back on where you were able to build a bond or a connection with a fan, or a fan reached out and said, "Oh, Flawless, this influenced me this way," or your work influenced me? Is there a moment that you think back to that stands out?
Absolutely. This one moment sticks out to me the most. I was in Flagstaff, Arizona, and it dawned on me, it hit me at that moment when I started seeing parents and children at the same concert to see me, both fans, and it showed how diverse my music was. I don't have any profanity in my music, so it's easy for kids and parents to enjoy it. So when I came across a mother and a son who were fans of the concert, ended up going back and then writing me later and letting me know that my music actually helped their bond, become even closer. They were having a struggle with the connection, and their love for my music made them closer together. The mother ended up getting sick not too long after. I kept into great communication with them, and unfortunately, she ended up passing away. And I kept a connection with the son, but it really just like showed me how powerful music is. I mean, to be able to rekindle a mother and son relationship and build that bond back up, especially at a time where we didn't know she was going to get sick. It just showed me how powerful things that I say, every word that I say, every song that I come out with, it's really, really crucial and important to the world.
It is amazing how, when you can listen to a song, you can listen to music, whether it's just the music or the words,
Mm.
and it can take you back to a time in your life, or it could make you remember something that you haven't thought about in a long time. It must feel like, this great responsibility on your shoulders that you carry that ability to kind of transform the way people see experiences and see moments in their life.
Yeah, and the responsibility for me is more about authenticity. Just having that connection with my fans, especially with the rhythm and flow. Like I've been independently touring since 2011, so I've been building my fans. I've had a core fan base for years. Now I'm on this Netflix show. For me, it was like very important for those fans that were already supporting me to see the same guy that they've been seeing for years, to see that same authenticity on a bigger platform that they've watched on a smaller stage. And it was so great to be able to go through that experience and still, keep my integrity, stay true to myself, and be authentic in every way possible. So that way, my fans can see that everything that they've been seeing is exactly what you're gonna get from me.
You've talked a lot about the advantages of being an independent artist. There has to be some challenges too, I would imagine. And like you and I have talked about, this show is called Everybody Pulls the Tarp. It's all based upon a philosophy that I have, that great teams, great organizations are powered by individuals who do unexpected things. They do the little things that kind of compile to have a big impact. I would imagine there's lots of challenges that you face as an independent recording artist that you have to navigate. You have to pull the tarp, as I like to say. You got to wear a lot of hats. You got to be part producer, part performer, recording artist. You've got to run the business side of it. Talk about that for a bit. In particular, some of the challenges of being an independent recording artist.
Absolutely. I realized once I really got into the independent space and needed to, book my own shows and continue to reach out to brands and continue to run my social media and continue to, try to get the music done. And it was so much going on outside of just being a rapper that I was like, man, I really need to pull the tarp. And I also need my team to pull the tarp. I have team members who have come on. Jay Abreu is a drummer of mine. I hired him as a drummer to begin with in 2011. He is now like one of the CEOs of the company, running multiple areas of the business because he's pulled the tarp. He's made himself, so valuable by doing more than what we've asked, going the extra mile. I have another partner named Rick who continues to do everything he can from his home. He was unable to travel with COVID and still found ways to make things happen for the team that are outside of his responsibility. So everybody kind of pulling the tarp on their own side really helps a lot. And it also takes the pressure off of me and makes me feel like my responsibilities aren't too much. And this is required. If you want to be independent, you need to be the manager, you need to be the booking agent, you need to be the promoter, you need to be the musician, you need to be the rapper, the performer, you need to set up the shows. It's so much. But when everybody's doing more than what they're asked to do, it just makes everything run smoothly, for sure.
And you mentioned the COVID there, and Rick, who's on your team, the COVID must have really disrupted things for you. I know for any performer, anybody who relied on small or large venues, it certainly changed the plan.
It was devastating, not only because for the normal artists who cannot tour. I mean, you have to think, for me, Netflix show had just aired, so the hype was at an all-time high. The demand was at an all-time high. The calls, the offers were coming in that we couldn't even imagine were even real. And then COVID hit and shut everything down. And it really put me in a dark space for a little bit. But like I said, with my team pulling the top consistently and finding ways, we adjusted to the virtual space. And we actually began doing virtual shows. We did our first virtual concert in November during that year, and we had 1 million people watch the live stream. So it was like really, really big for us to be able to adjust and switch over. We were doing university shows for different colleges and universities via Zoom. We found a way to continue to kind of tour without having to even leave. And that's credited to my team, always pulling the tarp and finding ways to adjust and navigate at a time where nobody could navigate. We were probably one of the only artists in the business that were still touring during the pandemic without actually leaving. So it was incredible to watch my team adjust and watch us adjust on the fly and create a virtual space where we could be successful, for sure.
Do you think that this whole experience, the last 15, 16 months is going to leave us with lessons that we can take forward, right? Like there's things that you were forced to do over the last 15, 16 months that actually may be beneficial to your brand and business. How do you figure out what should stay, in other words?
I think it was more just about planning. I think we had the entire year of 2020 planned, the entire year. I had December calendar dates locked in. And it was like, maybe we need to just focus one day at a time because anything can happen. And we can't really plan too far ahead. So we have to just make sure we're doing everything possible in the moment to just give ourselves the best opportunity, because I was a year ahead and everything shut down. And then I was like, okay, I literally have no plans for a year now. I don't know what to do with myself. So I just being in the moment is more important for us right now, and making sure that we do everything every single day to the best of our ability to get the most out of today,
You mentioned, at the beginning of COVID, you kind of went to a dark place. You were kind of riding this huge high coming out of you're riding this huge high coming out of this Netflix show. You've got presumably all these opportunities, as you described, ahead of you. You're feeling really good, and then COVID hits. It kind of takes you back. How did you kind of dust yourself off and say, all right, we're going to make lemonade out of these lemons?
Just understanding that nothing is forever. Understanding that as long as I can keep things afloat until the world gets back, moving, I would be able to get back on track. And knowing what I've been through, knowing I've packed all my stuff before, going to a foreign city that I didn't really know what was going to happen, and I've been in worse situations. So I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm healthy. I'm good right now. We found a virtual space to get into. Let's focus on that. Let's take it day by day. And hopefully, God willing, when things come back around, we'll be able to get back on track. But it was definitely a test for me mentally, to be battling so long, trying to get to that point. You finally feel like you're getting to that point, and then the entire world stops. It's like, really? You know what I mean? It's one of those moments. But I just had to check my ego at the door, check my ego at the door and pull that top a little more, throw a different hat on, figure out a way to continue to move forward, because movement and moving forward is the only thing you can do every single day. Once you stop moving, that's when there's no chance of you progressing ever. So continuing to move is definitely the play.
People watch you on the Netflix show. They see you now. You've got almost 1 million followers on Instagram. That you make it look easy. They think that everything is glamorous and this is a pretty cool gig. And when you hear that a lot with elite performers, people look on and they say, oh, that Olympic athlete, that pro athlete, that that all-time winningest coach, that best-selling author, looks easy. It looks glamorous, lots of fun, red carpets. Why don't you share with the audience a couple of things that maybe aren't so glamorous, that kind of stand out in your mind throughout your career so far?
I think uncertainty is the most unglamorous thing about this entire process. When you pursue a career, shout out to my fiance. She just graduated with her master's, right? And she's moving on now. She has a career. She's stressed out during school, and she's like, oh, this and this. And she's like, one more year and I'm done. And I'm like, imagine how easy that is. Knowing in a year you're gonna be there. So you just gotta get through this year. When you're doing something like I am independently, the uncertainty of never knowing what's gonna happen next is the hardest thing of artistry. And people say, it looks easy, you make it look easy. Yeah, the cameras always show the nice side. They don't show me stressed out, worrying about where the next tour is going to come from, where the next, production is going to come from, where the next opportunity is going to come from. Is the next opportunity going to come? How can I continue to move forward? Always continuously trying to stay in the public eye to stay relevant. It's a lot of pressure on us, and the uncertainty is the most, is the most thing that you have to worry about every single day. It's different than going to school for a career for a certain amount of years, and then you get a degree, and now you get a job, and you move forward. Like it's so different. If I knew, I put in 5 years, and I'm gonna become a professional rapper and make $1 million a year, that's easy. You put in the 5 years, you get the degree, and you're on. The uncertainty for me keeps me up at night, literally every night.
Well, the uncertainty, it's very similar to being the CEO or an entrepreneur of leading a startup, right? I mean, you've got the music piece, which there's enough unknowns about, but then you've got the business side of Flawless Real
That's what I try to tell everybody. It's a small business. It's the same way. Like right now, I am at a place where I'm not, let's say I'm not, Cardi B famous, right? But I'm on my way. I look at myself as like a small business. That's exactly how I'm trying to grow every single day. Any small business owner can relate to an independent artist, because that's exactly what we're doing. We're running a business, and it's the same thing. Just like you said, business owners have that same uncertainty. Startups, starting a business, it's literally no different outside of just making music. But if you remove the music process, we have to run a business. That's exactly what it is. And we are the product. The music is the product, opposed to having, selling a drink or, a beverage or some food. It's a different product, but it's all the same. It's a small business.
You talk about relatability and authenticity. We've covered a lot of those topics. I know something that's near and dear to your heart is where you come from, Rhode Island. And you take a lot of pride in the fact that, a lot of hip hop and a lot of hip hop artists and big stars in the music industry don't necessarily come from Rhode Island. Talk about what, where you come from means, and how you continue to maintain a bond with that local community where you come from amidst all of your international success.
My city is special. The reason why I say my city is special is because we're the smallest state in the country, which, we're a small city within a smaller state in the country. And that underdog mentality is just bred within us. We feel like the odds are stacked against us. We're not really visibly seen. We don't have many opportunities. And when we make it out, when we see someone from our community making it out or being successful, we know the challenges that come with that. We can relate to, everything that person has had to go through just to get out of our city and make it out of our city. When I told people I was going to Atlanta, people thought I was crazy. That's not something that happens. People are born and die in Rhode Island. People grow up in Rhode Island and they just know Rhode Island. I have friends that have never left the city before. I have friends that have never left the state. So for me to pack all my stuff at 18 and move to Atlanta, like, are you crazy? You're crazy. You're going to be back here in a month. You're going to quit your job. You're going to, I was working overnights unloading produce, 3 a.m. to 11 a.m. The only reason I worked overnight was because I wanted to be in the studio all day. And I knew if I got a full-time job, I wouldn't be able to be in the studio all day. So I was literally working overnight from 3 a.m. to 11 a.m. and then out working guys in the studio during the day. And, I'll do that for 4 days and crash for a whole day and sleep, and my body would shut down on me. But then I'd go back and do it for another 4 days. And my productivity was insane because that underdog mentality was in me from where I'm from. And it's important for me, to always rep that, to always let people know I'm from Providence, because it was hard to get here from where I'm from. It was even harder than if I was from New York or if I was from LA. You know what I mean? So that I take a lot of pride in that, and everybody that's from my city takes pride in that.
Flawless Real Talk. This has been so much fun. I've learned so much from you. I can't wait to see what you continue to accomplish and where you go next. I can, for those that are listening, I have the privilege of looking at Flawless here as we film the video, and I can see just the passion and energy that is in your face, Flawless, as you talk about everything we've discussed. But when you talked about your hometown, and when you talk about repping your hometown and being a beacon of pride for, all the people back home, incredible to see. So powerful. Thank you for joining everybody. Pulls the tarp.
Keep
pulling the tarp, and best wishes for continued success. Flawless Real Talk. Thanks for joining the show.
Thank you so much, man. I had a great time, Andrew. I hope to see you again soon, man.